What if the strongest man on Earth woke up one day and could no longer lift a car? What if bullets no longer bounced off his skin? What if the symbol of hope felt pain, fear, and doubt for the first time? Superman was never afraid of dying. But what happens when death finally becomes possible? When the world can no longer be saved from the sky? When help does not arrive in time? When a god is forced to walk, bleed, hide, and choose like everyone else? Does the world fall apart? Or does it finally grow up? If power is taken away, does the hero disappear? Or does the real hero finally appear? Would you still stand in front of danger if you knew it could kill you? Would you still help if no one was watching? Would you still be Superman if you are only human? This is not a story about strength. It is a story about choice. He had saved the world so many times that people stopped counting. Cities still stood because he had been there. Oceans ran calmer because he had changed their course. Lives continued because he arrived when no one else could. He never asked for thanks. He never demanded loyalty. He simply showed up, did what needed to be done, and disappeared back into the sky. For years, that was enough. For years, the world slept peacefully under the shadow of a man who could not be hurt. Then something changed. It did not happen during a battle. There was no warning, no enemy, no explosion in the sky. One moment, Superman was flying above the clouds, watching the sun rise over the curve of the earth. The next moment, the air felt heavy. His chest tightened. His vision blurred. The strength that had always been there, constant and effortless, vanished like it had never existed. He fell. Not slowly, not gracefully. He dropped. Wind screamed past his ears as his body tumbled through empty air. His instincts screamed for him to correct himself, to fly, to slow his descent. Nothing happened. The ground rushed up to meet him, and for the first time in his life, fear was louder than thought. He hit hard. The impact tore through his body like fire. Pain exploded across his chest and spine. The air was forced from his lungs in a violent gasp. He lay still, stunned, staring at a sky that suddenly felt impossibly far away. Every breath burned. Every attempt to move sent sharp warnings through muscles that no longer obeyed without effort. This was wrong. Everything felt wrong. Superman pushed himself onto his side, trembling. His hands were shaking. His heart was racing, not with effort, but with panic. He looked down and saw blood on his fingers. Not a scratch, not a bruise. Blood, dark and real. For a moment, his mind refused to accept it. He had been hit by forces that could shatter mountains. He had flown through explosions without slowing down. Pain had always been distant, temporary, something that vanished almost before it registered. This pain stayed. It dug in. It demanded attention. He was human. Above him, the sky remained calm and indifferent. No sign that anything extraordinary had happened. No warning to the world below that its greatest protector was lying broken and powerless on the ground. He tried to stand. His legs buckled immediately, and he fell back with a sharp cry he did not recognize as his own. His body felt heavy, uncooperative. Gravity pressed down on him in a way it never had before. Every movement required effort. Every second reminded him that the rules had changed. Somewhere nearby, people were shouting. Sirens wailed in the distance. Cars screeched to a stop. The sound of cameras clicking reached his ears before voices did. People were running toward him, pointing, whispering, shouting his name. Superman forced himself upright again, using a nearby wall for support. His vision swam. He tasted iron. The crowd stopped short when they saw his face, pale and strained. Nothing like the calm certainty they were used to seeing. Someone shouted, "Is this a trick?" Another voice followed, "Get back. He might explode or something." Fear moved through the crowd faster than concern. Superman raised a hand, a small gesture meant to reassure them. It felt heavier than lifting a truck ever had. "I'm okay," he said, though even he did not believe it. A sudden cough bent him forward. More blood hit the pavement. The crowd gasped. Phones were raised higher. Drones hovered closer. The moment spread outward. faster than any disaster he had ever tried to stop. Screens across the city, then the country, then the world, filled with the same image. Superman on his knees. Superman bleeding. Superman not getting back up. The symbol cracked. Within minutes, experts were speaking in calm voices on emergency broadcasts. They offered theories: radiation, cosmic interference, unknown technology. No one had answers, but everyone had opinions. The question spread just as quickly as the footage. What happens now? Superman felt it before he fully understood it. The shift, the absence, the quiet where power used to live. He tried to listen for the steady hum he had always felt beneath everything else. There was nothing there, just his heartbeat. Fast, uneven, human. Emergency responders finally pushed through the crowd. They approached carefully, cautiously, like they were handling something unstable. One of them reached for him, then hesitated, unsure. "I can walk," Superman said, though his voice shook. He took a step and nearly fell again. Strong hands caught him. Ordinary hands. Human hands. They supported his weight, and the realization hit him harder than the fall had. For the first time, he was being carried. As the ambulance doors closed, the world outside grew muffled. Sirens screamed as the vehicle sped away. Superman lay on the stretcher, staring at the ceiling, listening to his own labored breathing. This was how it felt. This was what everyone else lived with every day. Pain did not fade. Fear did not stay quiet. The body did not obey without question. He closed his eyes, not to rest, but to think. Somewhere out there, disasters would still happen. Fires would burn. Buildings would collapse. People would scream for help and look to the sky out of habit. And he would not come. The thought cut deeper than any wound. When the ambulance stopped, he felt the weight of the world pressing in, not physically, but emotionally. Doors opened. Lights flashed. Voices overlapped. He was moved again, transferred, surrounded by questions he could not answer. Doctors worked quickly, efficiently, with the same urgency they showed any injured person. No special tools. No hidden rooms. No miracle solutions. Just hands, instruments, and concern. That scared him more than kryptonite ever had. Hours later, he sat alone in a quiet room, wrapped in bandages. The city outside continued to move, unaware of how close it was to a future without him. His body ached everywhere. His head throbbed. Fatigue settled into his bones. He tried once more carefully to feel for his powers. Nothing answered. The truth settled in slowly, heavily. He was still alive. But Superman was gone. And the world had no idea what that truly meant yet. Morning came slowly, not with strength, but with pain. Superman woke up before his eyes opened, aware of every ache in his body. His chest felt tight, like something heavy was pressing against it. His arms were stiff. His legs burned with a deep soreness that did not fade when he shifted position. Once, wounds healed while he slept. Now, sleep only reminded him of what still hurt. He opened his eyes to a white ceiling and unfamiliar sounds. Machines beeped softly nearby. The smell of disinfectant filled the air. For a moment, confusion took him. Then, memory returned all at once. The fall, the blood, the fear in the crowd's eyes. He sat up too quickly and immediately regretted it. Dizziness washed over him. His stomach turned. He gripped the edge of the bed until the room stopped spinning. His heart pounded like it was trying to escape his chest. This body demanded respect. It punished impatience. A nurse entered the room and froze when she saw him awake. Her expression was not awe. It was concern. Real concern. "Easy," she said, stepping closer. "You've been through a lot." He nodded, unsure what to say. No one had ever spoken to him like this before. They ran tests, blood tests, scans, simple tools used on ordinary people. Doctors spoke in careful tones just outside the room, using words like stable and recovery, and we don't know yet. When they spoke to him directly, they avoided his eyes, not out of fear, but uncertainty. He was no longer a problem they could not solve. He was a patient. That realization stayed with him long after they left. When they finally allowed him to stand, it took everything he had. His legs shook violently as his feet touched the floor. He had carried collapsing bridges. He had lifted mountains. Now, standing felt like a challenge. Sweat formed on his forehead from the effort alone. Step by step, he moved forward, guided by hands ready to catch him if he fell. He hated that feeling. Not the help, but the dependence. The loss of control. Outside the hospital, the world waited. News vans lined the streets. Helicopters circled overhead. Screens everywhere replayed the same footage of him falling, bleeding, failing. The image burned itself into public memory. For the first time, Superman was not an answer. He was a question. He did not leave through the front doors. That was not a choice made for drama. It was made for safety. Fear had already begun to spread, and fear did not always make people kind. A quiet exit, a simple car, no cape, no symbol, just a man in borrowed clothes sitting in the back seat, staring out the window. The city looked different from ground level. He had walked these streets before, but never like this. Every sound felt louder. Every movement around him felt closer. People bumped into each other, argued, laughed, hurried past without looking up. The world did not slow down just because he had fallen. He felt small in a way he never had before. At a corner, the car stopped suddenly. A crowd had gathered ahead. Smoke rose into the air. Sirens wailed again. A building fire. He could see it clearly now. Flames climbing the side of an old apartment block. People trapped inside, screaming from windows. His body reacted before his mind did. He reached for the door handle. "You can't," the driver said quickly, panic in his voice. "You're not ready." Superman watched as firefighters rushed in. Ladders rose slowly. Hoses sprayed water that seemed too weak against the flames. Minutes passed. Screams grew louder. Then, quieter. He sat back, his hands clenched into fists so tight as nails cut into his palms. This was the new reality. That night, he did not sleep. Every sound outside the window made him tense. A distant siren, a crash, a raised voice. His mind replayed every moment he had ever arrived just in time. Every life he had saved without thinking. Now, every second mattered, and he could not move fast enough to change anything. Hunger surprised him the most. He had always eaten because he wanted to, not because he needed to. Now his stomach demanded attention. It growled painfully if he ignored it. Weakness followed if he waited too long. He learned quickly that this body ran on limits. Ignore them, and it failed. He tried to help where he could. Small things. Carrying boxes at a shelter. Clearing debris after a minor accident. Sitting with people who had lost someone and did not need answers, only company. He kept his head down. He did not use his name. Still, people noticed. There was something familiar about him. Something steady. They trusted him without knowing why. It frightened him how easily that trust returned, even without the symbol. One evening, rain began to fall as he walked home. It soaked through his clothes immediately. Cold crept into his bones. He shivered, teeth chattering, and realized how vulnerable this body truly was. Weather was no longer background. It was a threat. A mugging happened right in front of him. A young man cornered an older woman, shouting, shaking with anger and desperation. Superman stepped forward without thinking. He raised his hands, tried to calm the situation. The mugger turned, saw no cape, no power, and laughed. The punch came fast. Pain exploded across Superman's face. He staggered back, nearly falling. The mugger froze, surprised that the man stayed standing. People shouted. Someone screamed. The mugger ran. The woman stared at Superman, terrified. "You're bleeding," she whispered. He touched his cheek. His fingers came away red again. That night, as he cleaned the wound in a small bathroom mirror, he looked at his reflection for a long time. Bruised, tired, human. This was what it cost. No music, no applause, no certainty of survival, just choice. Every day after that felt heavier, not because it was harder, but because it mattered more. Every step outside was a risk. Every decision carried weight. He could no longer be everywhere. He had to decide where to stand. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the pain and fear, something else began to form. Not power, understanding. For the first time in his life, Superman truly knew what it meant to be human. The world did not wait for him to recover. Disasters never did. Without the familiar streak in the sky, emergencies unfolded differently. Slower, louder, deadlier. People still looked up at first, out of habit, expecting a shadow to pass overhead. When nothing came, panic filled the space where hope used to be. News channels ran endless debates. Some blamed him, some defended him. Most argued about what should happen next. Governments called emergency meetings. Old defense plans were pulled from storage and updated. New task forces were announced with confident names and empty promises. None of it stopped the fires. None of it lifted the rubble. Superman watched it all from the ground. Screens in shop windows showed images of flooded towns and collapsed highways. Death counts scrolled quietly at the bottom of the screen. He felt each number like a weight added to his chest. Not because he was responsible for everything, but because he had once been able to help with almost all of it. Now he chose. That choice haunted him. One afternoon, an earthquake struck a city hundreds of miles away. The footage showed buildings swaying, people running, dust filling the air. Emergency crews were overwhelmed within minutes. He stood in a crowded cafe, surrounded by strangers watching the same images. Someone whispered his name like a prayer. Someone else cursed it. He stayed where he was, not because he did not care, because he could not arrive in time, because trying would only create another injured body for others to save. That was the cruelest lesson. Accepting limits did not feel noble. It felt like failure. Communities began changing in small, quiet ways. Neighborhoods organized patrols. Volunteers trained together instead of waiting for orders. People learned first aid, learned how to dig through rubble safely, learned how to rely on each other. Not because they wanted to replace him, but because they had no choice. Superman helped them. He lifted what he could. He guided where he had knowledge. He listened more than he spoke. He taught rescue techniques he had seen 1,000 times from above, now explained slowly, carefully, at ground level. He worked until his hands blistered and his back screamed for rest. At night, he collapsed into sleep like a man twice his age. Not everyone accepted this new world. Some people were angry. They wanted someone to blame, and he was an easy target. They said he had abandoned them. They said he should have planned for this. They said a real hero would find a way. Once, a man shouted at him in the street, spitting words filled with grief and rage. "You were supposed to protect us," he yelled. "That was your job." Superman did not argue. He stood there and took it. The man's pain deserved that much. Others tried to turn him into something else. There were whispers about using him as a symbol, even without powers. Politicians spoke about appearances, speeches, reassurance. Superman refused. He would not stand in front of cameras and pretend everything was under control. Lies did more damage than fear ever could. Heroes without powers began to rise. Not in costumes, not with names. Ordinary people did extraordinary things. A teacher who pulled 3 children from a collapsed school. A bus driver who turned his vehicle into a moving shelter during a storm. A nurse who worked for 3 days straight without rest. Their stories spread quietly, without music or fanfare. Superman watched those stories with something close to pride. One evening, while helping clear debris after a storm, he collapsed. His body simply gave up. His vision darkened. He hit the ground hard, unable to move. People rushed to him, fear on their faces. Someone shouted for help. Someone else tried to lift him. This time, he did not wake up in a hospital. He woke up on a couch in a small community center. A blanket covered him. A glass of water sat within reach. People were nearby, speaking softly so they would not disturb him. "You pushed too hard," an older woman said gently when she noticed his eyes open. "You don't have to do everything." He stared at the ceiling, listening to her words. They were simple, true, and still hard to accept. As days turned into weeks, the world adjusted. It did not become safer, but it became braver. People stopped waiting for miracles. They started preparing. Governments still argued, but they also cooperated more often. Rescue teams trained harder. Systems improved, slowly, imperfectly, humanly. Superman remained among them. He lived in small apartments. He took public transportation. He waited in lines. He learned the rhythm of ordinary life, the frustration and beauty of it. He learned how much effort it took just to get through a single day. One night, walking home late, he heard a child ask their parent, "Do you think Superman is still watching us?" The parent paused before answering. "I think he taught us how to watch out for each other." Superman stopped walking. The words stayed with him long after the footsteps faded. For the first time since losing his powers, the weight on his chest felt lighter. Not gone, but shared. He realized then that the world was not weaker without him. It was different. And maybe, just maybe, that was not a failure. Maybe that was the point. Because gods inspire awe, but humans inspire each other. And for the first time, Superman understood that saving the world had never been about lifting it alone. It had always been about helping it learn how to stand. Danger did not announce itself anymore. It arrived quietly, suddenly, in places that never made the news. Back alleys, broken neighborhoods, border towns forgotten by maps and memory. Superman learned that heroism without power was not about spectacle. It was about showing up when no one else would. He chose where to go carefully now, not because he was afraid, but because fear had become useful. It sharpened his judgment. It reminded him that every step carried risk, not just for him, but for others. When he walked toward trouble, he did so knowing he might not walk away. One night, violence broke out at a crowded shelter. Hunger and frustration turned into fists, then knives. Panic spread fast. People screamed and tried to run, trampling each other in the dark. Security was overwhelmed within seconds. Superman stepped into the chaos. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He moved between bodies, taking blows meant for others, using his weight, his balance, his presence. A blade cut his arm. Pain flared hot and sharp. He ignored it and kept moving. He locked eyes with the man holding the knife and spoke calmly, firmly, like he had 1,000 times before. "Stop." The man hesitated. That moment mattered. Others saw it. They stepped in. Hands grabbed arms. The knife clattered to the floor. The fight slowed, then ended, not because someone was stronger, but because someone refused to let it grow. Superman sank to one knee once it was over, blood soaking through his sleeve. People surrounded him, not in fear, but concern. Someone pressed a cloth to his wound. Someone else offered water. No one asked his name. He accepted their help without shame. That was new. Word spread quietly, not through headlines, but through stories passed between people who had nothing else to give. There was a man who walked into danger without armor. A man who stood between violence and the weak, even though he could bleed. Especially because he could bleed. Not everyone believed it. Some saw him as reckless. Some called him foolish. Some warned that one day his luck would run out. Superman listened and kept going. He was not trying to prove anything. He was trying to live up to something. One afternoon, a building collapse trapped dozens of people beneath concrete and twisted metal. Heavy machinery was hours away. Time was running out. Superman joined the rescue teams immediately. He did not lift slabs with ease. He dug with his hands until they were raw. He braced unstable walls with shaking arms while others pulled survivors free. The structure shifted suddenly. A beam gave way. There was no time to think. Superman threw himself forward, catching the weight with his back. Pain exploded down his spine. Something tore. He screamed and fell as the beam crushed the ground beside him instead of the people behind. The rescue teams dragged him out just in time. He lay on the dirt, gasping, tears streaming from his eyes, not from fear, but from pain he could not control. Medics rushed to him. He waved them past. "Check them first," he whispered. They did. That moment spread faster than any rumor. Not because of cameras, but because the people who saw it carried it with them. Courage like that did not need proof. Recovery took weeks. He moved slower after that. His body reminded him of its limits every day. Scars multiplied. Some never faded. He learned to live with them, to see them not as failures, but as records of choices made and paid for. One evening, he sat with a group of volunteers around a small fire. No uniforms, no symbols, just tired people sharing warmth and silence. Someone asked him quietly why he kept doing it. Superman stared into the flames for a long time before answering. "Because I can," he said finally. "And because someone has to." That was enough. The world continued testing him. There were moments when walking away would have been easier. Moments when fear screamed at him to stop. When pain begged him to rest. When the idea of safety felt tempting. Each time he remembered the sky, the fall, the sound of his body hitting the ground, the way the world had kept moving without him. He did not step forward because he was invincible. He stepped forward because he was not. That choice changed the people around him. They stood a little straighter. They argued less and listened more. They learned that bravery did not mean being unhurt. It meant being present. Superman became quieter as time passed. He spoke less. He acted more. He let others take credit. He stayed in the background whenever possible. And still, people noticed. Not because he asked them to, but because hope has a way of revealing itself through action, not words. By the time winter came, his body carried the weight of everything he had chosen. Cold cut deeper now. Old injuries ached constantly. He wrapped his coat tighter and kept walking. Some nights, alone, he wondered how long he could continue like this, how many choices his body could still afford. Then morning came, and he made the choice again, not as a god, not as a weapon, but as a man who refused to look away. Time passed in a way Superman had never experienced before, not measured by battles or victories, but by mornings where getting out of bed hurt and nights where sleep came only after exhaustion won. His body carried every choice he had made. Old injuries never fully healed. New ones joined them. He learned where the pain would be each day before he even opened his eyes. And still, the world kept calling. Not with sirens in the sky, but with quiet needs. A collapsed home after a storm. A border camp running low on food. A town cut off by flooding where help arrived too late and stayed too short. Superman went where he could, when he could. Not fast, not unstoppable, just present. People stopped looking up for him. That change mattered more than anything. Rescue teams acted without waiting. Neighbors checked on each other without being asked. Communities prepared instead of hoping. The world did not become safer, but it became stronger in a different way. Superman watched it happen from the middle of it all. One evening, he stood at the edge of a river swollen from weeks of rain. A temporary bridge had collapsed earlier that day. Supplies were trapped on one side, families on the other. Engineers argued over plans while time slipped away. Superman stepped forward and spoke quietly. He suggested a simple solution: rope lines, anchors, human chains. It would take effort. It would take trust. They did it. Hands locked together, feet dug into mud. People moved slowly, carefully, passing food and medicine across the rushing water. No one fell. No one waited for permission. When it was over, they looked at each other with something new in their eyes: pride. Superman walked away without a word. Later that night, alone, he sat beneath an open sky. Stars filled the darkness above him. He remembered how easy it once was to reach them, how distant they felt now. He did not miss the power the way he thought he would. He missed the certainty. As a god, he had always known the outcome. As a human, every choice carried risk. Every step could be wrong. But that uncertainty made each decision matter more. It made courage real. One morning, while helping rebuild a school, A child asked him a simple question. "Are you Superman?" The world seemed to pause. He looked at the child, at the dust on his clothes, the bandage on his hand, the tired faces around them. He smiled gently. "I used to be," he said. The child thought about that. "What are you now?" He considered the question carefully. Then he answered honestly, "I'm helping." That answer spread farther than any headline ever could. Years later, stories would still circulate. Some said his powers returned one day. Some said they never did. Some claimed he chose to leave the world behind. Others insisted he never stopped walking among them. The truth mattered less than what remained. The world no longer waited to be saved. People remembered a time when a man could lift mountains, but they learned more from a time he could not. They learned that strength did not begin with power. It began with responsibility, with showing up, with standing in front of danger even when fear was real. Superman never built a monument. He never asked for recognition. He refused titles and avoided cameras. He left places better than he found them and moved on before gratitude could turn into dependence. And slowly, something remarkable happened. Trust replaced fear. Not trust in him, but in each other. When disasters came, people acted. When violence threatened, communities stood together. When hope wavered, it did not vanish. It passed from hand to hand, person to person. Superman grew older. His hair showed gray at the edges. His steps slowed. His hands ached more in the cold. He accepted it without bitterness. Aging was not an enemy. It was proof that he had stayed. On a quiet day, long after the world had stopped asking where he was, Superman returned to the place where he had fallen from the sky. The city had changed. New buildings stood where he had once bled on concrete. People passed by without recognizing him. He stood there for a long time, not remembering the loss, understanding the gift. He had lived as a god and learned what it meant to be feared. He had lived as a man and learned what it meant to be trusted. Only one of those things had changed the world for the better. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the street, Superman turned and walked away. The world did not follow. It did not need to, because a hero had not disappeared. He had multiplied. And somewhere in 1,000 small moments every day, people chose to stand up, to help, to protect, to care, not because they believed God was watching, but because they believed they should. That was the legacy he left behind. Not power, not fear, but choice.